So the next thing we're going to do here is use Photoshop, but use it with the Camera Raw filter, a filter that's built into Photoshop that offers most of the same access to Adobe Camera Raw. Now, the advantage of doing this is if you know you want to make additional changes to a photograph, say you want to do more advanced retouching or editing of the image, you can still use Adobe Camera Raw to do all of the initial presets and just keep it within that program. Now there's two ways of doing this. You can either make edits first within Adobe Camera Raw and then open the image in Photoshop and make further changes. The only problem with doing these is then all of those changes aren't really going to track with the original file, right? The original raw file. So generally, if you just know you're going to make further changes to the image, especially if you're doing image retouching, removing spots or other problems, or doing beauty retouching, it's going to be better to do those changes within Photoshop through a Camera Raw filter instead of editing in Camera Raw itself. So the way you're going to start this is first you're going to make a copy of your background. So we're going to take the background image in the layers right here, go ahead and place it with the little, add layer icon down here. Now we have a layer copy. Right click this, and then you're going to convert it to a smart object. Right, we know it's a smart object because that little icon has now been added to it. Now we're ready to do alterations with filters. So what you'll do now that you've made a smart object, you'll go up here under filters. Now there's a lot of different filters you can work with. You can go to the blur gallery, add blur to your photographs, sharpen them, add noise, lots of different other options. But what we're going to do right now is go to the Camera Raw filter. So with the Camera Raw filter, you see it just opens up Camera Raw, but it's opening up Camera Raw as a filter. So all of the changes we made in Camera Raw previously, exposure, contrast, highlight, shadow adjustments, etc., you can still make all of those changes now. So in the previous videos, when we did Camera Raw editing, right, that is something you still have as an option here. So if you're going to do black and white conversion to this photograph, we just tried doing it through the Photoshop adjustment layers. Now we're going to do it here, but through Camera Raw. This is actually my preferred method of working because, especially if you're working with raw files, I just like the interface of Adobe Camera Raw more, and I'm sort of more familiar with it and working with photography so extensively. So doing contrast adjustments, general exposure adjustments, shadow and highlight detail, kind of bringing back some of the whites or blacks or highlight detail in the photographs. You can adjust all of these separately. And again, you could do all of the same adjustments you could make to the photographs in black and white, and also make temperature, color adjustments. So here is the black and white mixer right now. Now that we've gone over and done the general alterations to the photograph, now here is where we would, adjust each of these sliders separately to kind of have the similar adjustments we were making through Photoshop and the Photoshop adjustments we were doing there. So I kind of go through, maybe brighten these rocks up a little bit, target some of the reds here. And again, the same thing, if you're doing really dramatic changes to the sky here, you'll start noticing it, especially if there's any color fringing on the lens that you're using, it'll really be picked up here. So just kind of be mindful of that. I mean, you can adjust it later, but it's more of a pain. So just be mindful when you're making changes that you're not seeing any color fringing around the images. So again, when we're using this through the Camera Raw filter, if I go ahead and make the changes I want to make here, and you have the full range of options that you would have in Adobe Camera Raw, right? So sort of working with the same system we were working there. You have the normal panel. You can do all of the same, changes to, manual transformations or auto transformations. You can do, some general retouching or removal of things. I do find this to be much better to use in Photoshop. So all of the same set of tools that you have to use in Camera Raw is going to be available to you here. So once I'm done with this, kind of just make sure that I like the changes I've made, I can go back and say, okay. Right, it's going to take a little bit to process this. And now, again, the great thing is this is saved as a smart object. The filter is right down here. So this change I've made to this filter as a smart object, you can do, numerous different filter changes to this layer, and they're all still editable. I could come back here, double click on the raw filter again, and it opens it right back up to where I had before with all of my settings intact. So as long as you're saving this as a PSD or a TIFF file, ideally PSD if you're working with it in Photoshops multiple times, you can come back and do all of these discrete alterations to your photograph. Everything is going to be retained there. It does make the file a lot bigger, but you have just, infinitely more capabilities of working with it than you would otherwise. So again, the nice thing here is if you're going to be doing more advanced editing or compositing or alterations to this photograph, that's something that you can definitely do as a Camera Raw filter and still have the capabilities of using Adobe Camera Raw. So I hope this has given you something to use and think about. It is an excellent tool.